This is a case we're tracking here at Court TV. How should the justice system handle Derek Rosa's case? What do you do with this? Here to help with our investigation, back with us, criminologist, attorney, investigative profiler, Dr. Casey Jordan, who's also the host of the true crime podcast, Criminal Appeal with Dr. Casey Jordan. And also joining us, nationally known psychotherapist and author, Dr. Robi Ludwig, also the host of the podcast and YouTube series, The Pivot, with Dr. Robi Ludwig. All right, Dr. Robi, what are your thoughts here about how to handle this case and this accused killer son?
What an awful situation. You know, clearly we have a 13-year-old who stabbed his mother to death multiple times. And in looking at the case and looking at his diagnosis, he was later diagnosed with autism and ADHD, which really have to be considered in figuring out how to prosecute this crime. Not only that, but he was 13 years old. So people with ADHD tend to be impulsive and they can't control their feelings or their actions, and sometimes have difficulty with the criminal system as a result. And we know with autism spectrum, sometimes they have flat responses and their interpersonal abilities can be not functioning properly. So we have a kid who probably was extremely angry about some situation in the home. Maybe he had a little sister that was robbing him of his time and attention. Maybe he was angry with his mother for not attending to him in a way that he felt he needed to be attended to. Clearly, none of this justifies a murder or a violent murder like the one that happened on that particular day. But we have to consider this child's age, his developmental disabilities and challenges, and how that plays out in the criminal court case. We don't know whether this was something that he premeditated. It could have been something that happened in the moment. He was enraged, he took a knife, and he killed his mother. And I don't know what the advantage is of trying him as an adult when he's 13, and clearly he's not an adult. It seems to me that this is a person that needs to be incarcerated, but also needs treatment and care in order to do justice for this case.
Dr. Casey Jordan?
I love being on with Robi, and I love when she brings the psychotherapist perspective on this,
Casey.
because the bottom line is, Robi, I'm going to agree with you. If indeed he's not the very, very rare teenage psychopath, if you keep in mind, he can have ADHD, he can have autism. But remember, of your kids who kill their parents, 90% are horribly abused. He doesn't fall into that category. 5% are very emotionally disturbed, usually having mental illness like schizophrenia, having hallucinations, delusions. We don't have any evidence of that. And the last 5% are dangerously antisocial. They're psychopaths. It's a very hard thing to diagnose in young people because all of the tests for it are based on adults. So we really hesitate. But you know, the first episode of my podcast is on Paris Bennett, who is one of the rare psychopaths. 13 years old, killed his 4-year-old little sister. And if you ask me, because I've been there for the interviews, I would never let him out. So one of the advantages of trying somebody as an adult is that if you believe that they are that very minute minority, and it is highly overdiagnosed, but we never want to let them out. We never want to let them out because there is no cure. So trying someone as an adult when they are 13, on the surface, it seems incredibly inhumane. And I'm a huge believer in giving kids every chance to turn their lives around and giving them all of the support that they need to do that. But sometimes I think they charge them as adults because the evidence is there of psychopathy, and we do not want society to be the guinea pigs in finding out when we let them out when they're 18 that we were wrong. And I think that's what they're going to do here in the case of Derek Rosa, because he can't tell you why he did it.
I agree. The why is important. Dr. Casey Jordan, Dr. Robi Ludwig, thank you both so much. We're out of time.